Alrighty. Well, we'll do just a casual beginning. You're packing that bowl. I'm taking this dab. It's probably hot. I don't even have a carb cap. I'm going to go with this jar.
Entering the wrecking hour.
Yep. We're entering the rectum. It's another dimension of recorness.
Wrecked him. Damn near killed him.
That's the goal. Kill
It's Hobson
everybody.
saying.
Either kill them or wreck them. Or wreck them.
That's the past tense, you know. Well, like you can wreck them and then you have wrecked them.
Yeah, yep. All right, so to fill in all of the we've known each other for roughly like 10 years. Step up. Wait, maybe not 10. So I would say that we met each other. I was working in the studio with Hobbs and Paco back in Westminster in Southern California. And you rolled through, and I met you for the first time, I believe. And we made two, I'm pretty sure it was at the same session, 2 money collabs, which I was really stoked to get to be a part of. And it was the first time that I was part of any pieces that sold for a couple $1,000 or whatever. But also, looking back on it now, I would say that time in glassblower history, glass pipe history, was kind of a big shift where you saw the emergence of the sculpting style. And I used to sort of, somewhat condescendingly, I must admit, call it toy store style. Which actually...
That's what it was, designer toy.
Right.
You know, based off of.
And, you know, realistically, I was probably insecure with my sculpting skills, so I was like, what the fuck is everybody making toys for? Having said that, though, looking back, like I said, that was around the same time that it was right when I'd say maybe Elbow started making dynos, or right before. It seemed like you were like playing with the monies, and I guess maybe Kronk and somebody else might have been dipping their toe in there. And but you already had your sights beyond that. You're like, yo, this is a great, you know, sort of canvas to work with and an idea to go with and collab with a bunch of people, but it's not yours. And that's when I remember you were beginning to mess around with the monkeys and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was the Money Project is what I dubbed it afterwards. And it was basically like, so the monies are a blank doll that you can buy from Kid Robot.
Yeah.
And it has a certain shape, and they come white, and you're supposed to be able to decorate them yourself. And that's what they're about. But then they didn't have any for glass artists to decorate, so I took it upon myself to make them and then try to use it as like canvas for the other artists. So at first, when I started working with people, I would try not to give any input. Like, no, this is a shape, whatever you want it to look like, and I would help them make it look like their own version of this little Kid Robot toy. And I don't know, it caught on, and I mean, Elbow definitely, we were working the same studio, and he inspired me to, I was making line work and stuff, and then he inspired me to start trying to sculpt. And then once I came up with the monies, he around the same time came up with the dinosaurs.
Right.
And
was that when you guys?
And then we met Joey P around the same time, so it was like all three of us were kind of making those style like toys with the direct to inject like nail joint off the back.
Right. And
that was like end of 2011 is when I started making them.
And was that studio called? Was it Future Labs?
That was Jerem's studio. Jerem invited me out, and I give him props for getting me into the pipe game, because before that, I was a scientific glass blower.
Right. Yeah. So
and
just
real
quick there, did you go to Salem?
Yeah.
So you went to Salem.
Yep.
And then, and word up, you're at Future Labs. If you don't mind me asking, at that point, like, what's the evolution, let's just say, of like torches? You know, you came out of school. What were you working on at that point?
When I got out of school, or my first torch?
Sure, first torch, and then when you got out of school.
Okay, my first torch was a Major Minor that I bought. A local head shop in my town sold glass blowing supplies also, so I bought it from them. Used that for quite a while. And then I purchased a Carlisle used off of somebody. And my Major Minor, I had my friend, he modified it for me. He took the major head block off and turned it into a hand torch.
Oh, right on. Good
I've
idea.
since lost that torch. I have no fucking clue where it is. But yeah, and then the
And
Carlisle.
what
and then
year
I got
did you start also?
after
Sorry.
that.
What year would you say? What year?
I started blowing glass at the end of 2003.
And who were some of the artists? Maybe like what was it that compelled you to even want to get into it? Had you seen somebody else's shit and you were like, "That's really cool, I could get into it," or was it like
Jerry Kelly?
Jerry Kelly.
I went to a Fish show with my friend from growing up. His older brother was in Jerry Kelly's kind of crew, and me and my friend went with their crew to a Fish show. I think it was it. And so we all drove up there, and it was like we were like the younger kids hanging out with the big crowd. And Jerry was with us, and he had marbles and pipes, and he was slinging them on lot and selling ganja grilled cheese, and it was a good time. And then I left my acoustic guitar in his truck because I got really faded on the way back, and so I had to go to his studio in the town that I was living in to pick up my guitar. And when I walked in there, I was like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!"
And this is before you were going to Salem.
Yeah. This is when I first started.
So this was kind of when you got a little bit of the idea of maybe glass would be something to get into. Well, right on. Yeah. So then moving back to where we were working on those monies, that was really cool for me. And I would say that became an era when you saw a lot of artists sort of adopt a similar motif. They would figure out some sculptural thing that they were comfortable making that they could use as more or less a template, and then work with other artists.
I feel like, I mean, I've heard from other people that whole project kind of sparked more collaboration in general in the scene. But like, I mean, when I got into pipes, it was 2011, and I started blowing glass in 2003. So I already had that 7 or 8 years experience, and I didn't want to post any pipes that I made because I was worried about ruining my scientific career. Maybe like if I tried to get a job at university, they'd be like, "Oh, this guy makes pipes." So I posted my first glass pipe thing on the day that my last day of work when I like quit my job, just to have a reminder. I think it was like May 5th.
What was it? I love that. That's my birthday.
Anyways, so I was pretty fresh in the pipe scene when that started happening and going around, and so maybe that was a reason why it was like more collaborations or whatnot, and I don't know. And it was funny because it was definitely like more rare. Like collabs were more rare at that time.
Right.
And then now in the scheme of things, it's like sometimes people are like, "Yo, I just want the solo work." You know, it's back.
I find that same thing where, and also collabs sometimes seem to people believe, and they can be a little more expensive. I mean, it's a lot easier to have some wiggle room on a solo than it is on something when you're trying to share the profits with a couple people. Well, alrighty. So then we go from there, and you find yourself what? I know I might be fast forwarding a lot, but I know ultimately you find yourself in Philadelphia, and you work for a bit at Crushmore with the guys over there, and then from there you move to.
I actually, like, when I left there, I took a year off to kind of just move around. I stayed a month here. We're in actually Adam Hoobry's house right now.
We are in Adam Hoobry's
I stayed
house.
Here for a month. It was like in January, I went to the trade shows, and then I stayed at Ski Mask for a month. I went to Costa Rica for 5 weeks.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and then I went to Ski Mask, went to Chalice, spent the year traveling, and then I landed back home for the holidays, and I'd been saving to buy a house for a long time, and when I was in Costa, my friend told me, he's like, "Don't buy what you don't know," because people are like trying to offer you land or whatever. And I wasn't interested, but I was like, "Yo, these dudes are trying to sell me properties." Like, don't fucking. I mean, these people probably don't own it, but that stuck with me. And I was like, I'm trying to buy a house. I didn't want to live in Philly, and I was like, what do I know better other than any
hometown?
Yeah, the hometown. And my dad's a little sick. He's got MS too, and I figured it'd be good to be close. So, so I moved back there and I'm in Massachusetts now, Northampton, Mass.
Word up. What's the glass scene like out there?
It's actually pretty strong. I mean, everybody's a little bit more spread out, but like...
Is the difference in cannabis laws from East Coast to West Coast and wherever? I mean, do you think... Is your demand irrelevant as far as where you happen to be working? Is it just still basically internet-based, or do you find... I mean...
No, it's definitely where you're located.
Yeah, I was going to say, I find that even with the internet, like, it's the LA area that is going to be where my strengths are.
Well, when I first moved back to Massachusetts, all the local stores out there wanted work from me right away, and I hadn't done business with them. I have done business with them in the past, but it had been a while. But and then a bunch of new stores wanted work, and now that I've been living there for a few years, they're kind of good,
What
But even coming out here, you know, there's stores that I've dealt with besides Ziggy's, obviously.
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
like,
yeah. There's
we're
a
in
handful out
communication,
there.
but just because I'm out here in person, they're like, oh yes, we wanted this
Yeah.
stuff, and
That makes sense. There's a lot of
it's
artists
like,
that are always
yeah,
trying
online,
to,
it's kind of like sometimes you need that in person, like
do you
interaction for the.
do
You
you
know?
do mainly sell through stores or just go with
Yeah,
the flow?
yeah. I mainly sell through stores, and more recently, you know, like the market's changing, and I've been entertaining the direct to collectors, but I have to charge the full retail,
course.
you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's honestly I try to get them.
And
I
you're
get them.
doing
I try
the
to get them to
collectors a
use
favor
the
too. I know
store.
it sounds kind of weird, but I mean, you got to maintain the value of your work, and if you're
Yeah.
throwing out there numbers that are like undermining your retailers, then that's not doing anybody.
Well, I
any
try
favors.
to get them to use the stores because, to be honest, it's like I don't have an assistant or anything at this moment. It's a lot of back and forth when you're dealing with somebody, and it's
Yeah.
not like bad. I mean, whenever I
No.
go to buy something, I want to shop around and
It's hard to
kick
explain.
tires, but
yeah, you don't want to.
it's just like if I can have the like that's why I like the stores because they're good at dealing with the retail side where like
That's
you know,
their
they don't
job.
get mad at people. They're
Yeah.
like, you know, people are.
Yeah. It's hard for the average collector to understand that, like, if you're doing a direct sale to them and they want to send you, a lot of DMs and occupy your time exchanging in that dialogue, you don't want to seem disrespectful, but it does technically add to the amount of time that piece potentially cost you or took you. And like, even when you free yourself up from the individual person's requests, and which might just be use these colors or keep it within a certain price range, it seems like it frees you up to just kind of go with your creative impulses as opposed to trying to just satisfy somebody's requests.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know, and also it's like I'm not very good at written communication. Like whenever I have to submit a proposal for a craft school or anything, I'll have somebody like I'll write an outline, and then I have a person that's good at writing.
Yeah.
Write it for me to submit, and so like even just emails take me a long time, and then I'll reread it, and it sounds like a fucking like 7-year-old wrote it. You know what I'm saying? And like, so in the DMs situation, I can probably come off as curt or short just because it's like one or two.
Well, you want to, you're kind of trying to keep it to business and keep it to the point and really get back to your day. You could have 20
it's not like I'm like, oh damn, all these people are throwing me love.
Not at all.
Sucks.
No, that's not at all how it is. What it is, if anything, it's like, man, I can't show the same love back to everybody all the time.
I'll tell you one thing. I used to
just
kind of like ignore most messages just because I was like whatever, but then I follow a lot of artists that I like. I collect like glass and paintings and other things, and I've communicated like hit up an artist that I like their paintings works, and they hit me back, and I was like, whoa, that's fucking awesome. It made me feel so good, and then I realized that I can make somebody else feel that good if I just like give them a little bit of time.
Definitely.
So since then, I've been trying to be more and more communicative, with stuff, or at least like give it a like or whatever.
So earlier you mentioned we were in Hoobs' apartment.
Even out here, I was at the paint store up in Westminster.
Yeah.
And they have a huge Nichos mural on the back, the Batman one. I'm sure you've seen it. And I
to
posted it. I took a video. I tagged the paint store and Nichos shared it, like reposted it. And I was like, holy shit! Like he fucking reposted my story. So even now,
it's fun. Honestly, in the beginning with social media, I was kind of egotistical, and I used it more or less to promote myself, and that was the main thought. And then somewhere along the line, I'm more a fan of bands, and so it would be like I realized that, and a lot of these bands that I like are like stoner, doom, underground bands that don't have necessarily huge followings either, and so I realized I get in that fan mode. And then they'd respond, and I'd be like, "Whoa,"
Damn.
and you feel like I think what's cool about it is you just start realizing that you can be part of a community of creative people, and it's not like you're all in your own untouchable spaces. You know what I'm saying? And it's not also that anyone's all that unique. It's like really the people that are trying the hardest and that have their heart in it. So, like I was saying, we are in Hoobs' apartment right now. Surrounded by all this cool art.
About to wreck this shit.
Dude, destroy this. Nah. But
the D is silent.
Yeah, it's always silent.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Not at all, man. Not at all. It's fun to have a conversation with you. But you were with Hoobs when you all traveled to Asia and got some of this, so that's pretty cool. And also the reason you're here is because we just finished up. I say we because I was part of it. The Molten Art Classic this year,
sponsored Ziggy's.
Sponsored by Ziggy's, and so both of those things would be pretty cool to get into a little bit. Why don't you tell me first, since this happened? Tell me a little bit about when you and Hoobs went out to Asia.
So this painting is from Siem Reap, Cambodia, is the name of the town area. Where Angkor Wat is. And Angkor Wat are these temples that you see, there's like a shit ton of them out there. They're all in ruins. And so Siem Reap used to be like the capital of Cambodia. I forget, it was like 1,200 years ago.
Okay.
And so each king would like build a monument to themselves or a temple and shit. And then their son would. And so there's all these, like, they call them wats or thumbs or whatever. And so out there, you can spend like 4 or 5 days and not even see all of it. Yeah. But so apparently at one point, like 400 years ago, like one of the kings or something was like, they knew that shit was going to go down and like they were going to get invaded or whatever. And so they just moved everybody out of the capital down, like it's like a 9-hour drive now. So by foot, it would take so long, but like, and it's in Phnom Penh now. And so they did that because they wanted to protect all this crazy, I'm sure there's other reasons too, but like, and so it was abandoned for 400 years, and then the French...
And the jungle grew over it?
The jungle grew over it, and the French, I don't know if they, like, invaded or whatever, you know, because there's a big French influence out, especially in Vietnamese cuisine, which is right next to it, but,
they colonized
so the French explorers or whoever were there, they fucking found this shit, and there's, like, jaguars and, like, pythons and shit, and, like, since then, they've, like, upkept it. There is some people that have stolen, like, you know, things, but it's like, it's impressive, and I'd say it's worth traveling to before you die to see it in person, because it's really, you can watch a documentary on it, and it's very interesting, but it's different to be there and witness the
I'd love
scale.
to check it out. It's always like really fascinating. I think I saw it first in, what is it, Graham Hancock's book, I think Fingerprint of the Gods. He gets into a lot of different shit like that. It's super rad that you guys went and checked that out.
So anyways, so up near there, you know, there's tourist spots, and there's all these paintings of these tourist, like, you know, souvenir places, and not this big, obviously, like different ones, and like about that size, those little ones over there. And when we were driving, we got bikes or something one day, and we rode around trying to go to the temple, and they're like, "No, you can't ride a bike here. You know, like get out." And we rode back, and we rode past the spot where people were painting, and it was like this like long row of like different families with their paintings, and they're pretty much like. Not productioning these out, but it's like they're making multiples of the same exact painting. Yeah,
they got it down.
And they were like cool with us. We got to sit and hang out, watch them work, and then like some of them were like way sicker at painting than the other ones, and some people were learning. And then they'd have other ones where they like had this stuff, and then like, oh, but I like painting this stuff, and it'd be like some wild, crazy tiger like style painting, and like these big pieces, I don't know. He got it for pretty cheap considering how many hours are in this. Yeah. It's just different. You know, things are very cheap out there. Sure. Like you can survive like off of $1,000 as a tourist for 1 month of travel out there easily. And so this guy that he bought this one from was like super nasty at painting, and he was like had like a weird like pompadour like rockabilly thing. I forget his name, but we hung out with him for a while, and we knew we wanted to buy some work, and like Hoobs like eventually like was like, okay, I want this one, and like handed him like cash and $100 bills, and like the guy like ended up like crying and shit, and like I don't know, it's so cool.
I had an interesting,
and then I bought some paintings too, and so Hoobs got back, and he framed this himself, or he stretched it on the canvas, and my shit, this is like 2 years ago, my shit's still rolled up, dude. Like I was like trying to find an artist or painter to stretch it for me, and my shit's still rolled up, and I unrolled one of my smaller ones, and it's like cracked, you know what I'm saying?
That's too bad.
So Hoobs was a go-getter, like he did that right away when he got back. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, I went out to Turkey a long time ago, and I bought a rug, and I didn't even haggle with the dude and gave him money, and everybody kind of laughed at me, and I realized that I just like paid a shitload of money for something that they were, you know, they
got you. Yeah. When did you go to Turkey?
I think it was like 98.
Oh, okay.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. What is the coffee there? I know I've heard like, you know, about
Turkish coffee. You know, at the time I didn't drink coffee. So
does it like have the grinds in it or something?
I don't know. So yeah, I guess what I remember about Turkey was it was Ramadan actually. Now that I remember, so there was like no eating food all day, and it's pretty religious. But it was an amazing experience. I'd love to go back. Maybe not. I don't know. It seems like it's kind of politically tumultuous lately, but otherwise, I don't know. When I went there, the one thing, and I'm sure it was similar for you in Asia, it's just everybody sees me as somebody to saw me as somebody to sell something to. So
yeah.
everywhere I went, it would be like 24 people trying to sell me something at every moment.
Yeah,
it was fucking nuts. I actually almost got in a fight a couple times because I got pretty pissed. I'd like sit
You
down
just
on a
can't get
bench and
pissed.
then
That's how
some
those
dude
people
comes
make their
over
living,
and
bro.
no, I know, but when they're like touching you and like one guy came, I had a dude's kids, but it is what it is. Come over and put shoe polish on my shoe when I'm wearing suede shoes, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't work, but whatever. And then I gave them $5, and then they like start pulling this hustle of yelling at me, being like, "You didn't pay me," but in Turkish. And then they get a whole bunch of people yelling at me, and I'm like, "Yo, here's the deal. I didn't give a fuck about getting my shoes polished in the first place. They're suede, and you just smeared all this shit all over them. And now you guys are all yelling at me. I can yell just as loud."
Damn.
And I yelled and pushed somebody, and that seemed to be enough, and I walked off. Whatever. Overall, I love the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see
love
that.
the
They
country.
can be pretty persuasive.
I did actually ask one person after all these people were trying to sell me like T-shirts and little things. I did ask one dude if he would sell me hash, and that got him really uncomfortable. There's evidently it's there, but he's like in getting a lot of trouble. So I was like, all right, fuck it. And then another time, this dude was trying to sell me something, and I was probably even a dick. Like, okay, I've had enough. I don't want to buy your shit. But I'm in the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, which is like a few thousand of the same stall thing.
Yeah.
Still amazing, but after a while I realized I'm fucking lost as a motherfucker. Like I am not know where I am, and I see this dude.
Yeah.
Yes. I see this dude that I'd seen earlier and told him I didn't want to buy his shit, and I was like, "Yo, remember me? I need you to take me back to that place where you first saw me." And I gave him $20 at that point.
Yeah.
But
he's like, "Oh."
He's like, "Oh, my friend, I don't need any money, but let me tell you about my family that's suffering." I'm like, "Let's hear it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's up with that? You travel all the way here just to beg. It's nuts. Like that's a weird thing. It's like a job.
Mm-hmm.
Travel to the city so then you can beg from tourists and then go back to the country with the money. So he got a 20 out of me, and I was like the best 20 I ever spent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we just finished up the Molten Art Classic. Yeah. Which is why you're here in general.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about it, man? It's a pretty cool.
I think
project.
This is probably one of the sickest pieces I've ever been a part of creating.
Yeah, I could understand that. I feel the same way, and I really equate this one to climbing a mountain in a weird way. And this is just because, in a personal level, I've been getting stoked on movies like Free Solo and all these rock climbing movies, and so I feel like to kind of like equate it to a similar sort of, takes a lot of preparation, takes a lot of experience, takes a lot of sort of, it's not an adrenaline rush. It's not like you're going for an immediate thrill. You're going for this like zen, long drawn out, somewhat grueling but like meaningful experience with this big payoff in the end, which is the creation of something amazing, or like in the case of these rock climbers climbing a mountain or whatever. And so, and I know on a personal level, I'm always like, see, I'll just say, Coyle, you are sort of a phenom in the industry. You're really talented. You're able to kind of express yourself effortlessly in a way, and naturally it appeals to a lot of people. I'll let that. And but sometimes I feel like it's sweet to be a part of something where you get, that's way bigger than you can ever be on your own, and so being part of the team on these projects has made me feel every time surprisingly really stoked on glass blowing when it's all said and done. I mean, I don't mean to say that's a surprise, but I'm always like, oh, whoa, I forgot how stoked I feel when these things are done, and I even just played a tiny role in it.
Yeah, right? You played a big role in it.
This time I played a bigger role.
Huge.
I don't mind saying that. Pat myself on the back. It couldn't have been done without me.
It could not.
Just joking, but yeah, I get to, whatever. I felt, let's definitely say, in years past, I have been honored to be included, but it's really Hoobs just like allowing me to contribute a little trinket that gets put on. And this year I had a little bit more of an important role, and so that was sweet.
You stepped up and you delivered.
Bam! And so did you.
Yeah.
And so did you.
I tried my hardest.
I think that, how many of the Molten Art Classics have you been a part of?
This is my third one. It seems like. So I've been at the second, the fourth, the sixth one. And I kind of like the fact that I'm going every 2 years. It's like a biannual thing for me.
Can't get played out that way.
Gives some, more opportunity of like different people to get involved. And also it's just like, it's a lot of effort, you know what I mean? And it's like pretty grueling. Like I told Hoobs I'd come out for 2 weeks to help him out,
right?
You know what I mean, beforehand, because I know how much help
realistically
is needed.
Yeah.
And
you could come out for a month and probably.
It was definitely like you can get burned out pretty quickly, and
when you're not in your hometown, when you're crashing on couches and floors,
and then also it's like in the middle of
sort
summer,
of
and
other
there's
people's schedules.
Yeah, there's other events that happen around the same time, so it's like sometimes I have to pick and choose which ones to go to, or else I'll just be gone for all summer.
Yep. Back. So we're talking about Molten Art Classic, and it seems like perfect timing. Hoobs just got back, so we might get him to sit down
I was just saying that, I came, it's like biannual for me at this point. I mean, obviously, if Hoobs hits me up and needs help next year, and I'll come and help out or whatever, but, I came the second year, and we did the Ziggy's correctional bus, and it was pretty whimsical and pretty, like, funny, but it was fun at the same time, and it definitely was. It's cool to get together and make a piece where you're not like, oh shit, who would want to buy it, or like, what are we gonna do about selling it, or
right.
Oh, I don't want to put too much work in this because you know what I'm saying, like how sometimes you can work with some people that are focused on that, not because maybe they don't want to make it, maybe they just their time. Maybe somebody's coming to your studio, they only have 2 days, and they need to rip out a couple smaller pieces.
I think one of the things.
So it was fun to just not have any worries, and it's just like as much shit as you can possibly put on it to make it as heady. What do you think could go on there?
I think this year, one thing that was pretty sweet about this year is it really felt like the culmination of all the previous years, and obviously that's like a no-brainer, but you see like the ability to incorporate a lot of different artists and allow them to have their unique voice, but like slowly but surely figuring out how to have a continuity still with the work that you're making, as opposed to a little bit more random.
I think this is probably the first one. I don't know. At least that I was a part of, where it was a little bit more cohesive, just because.
For sure.
We made all the panels, like everybody's character was still on there, but it was monotoned out, so
that
just looked like
that
a
was
panel.
a very smart move.
Yeah, from far away, and I think like that kind of, it would look weird if we made the same truck and just put all the wacky characters on it again.
It would almost look like, it could look too much like you're just taking people's leftovers and sticking it on there if it didn't have the continuity and color and everything. Man. Also, I think that with everything in the world being so divisive, it's nice to be part of something that has no real competitive element to it. It's actually just a bunch of people working together to see a big goal accomplished, as opposed to trying to one-up each other or even send a message out there in any way that would somehow be divisive. I mean, there's a little bit of politics expressed in every piece, but it's not shoved down your throat. Yeah. And as artists, I think that's something that's honestly not just our right, but it's sort of our obligation. I feel like the world goes through social change a lot more peacefully when it's done with art, as opposed to bullets and firebombs and everything. I was telling them when I went to Turkey, I loved it. I loved everything about it, except I stood out as an American, and every place I went, it took about 30 seconds before I had like a dozen people trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
It was
Danger
t-shirts,
doesn't care
little
like you do.
sweets.
He was like, "Oh, what is this? Cool!" Like somebody's like fucking shining or like taking his. He brought like shoes that had holes in the bottom of
Right,
them
right.
for a 6-week trip, like in Southeast.
Hey,
the
yo.
guy fixed his soul.
That's
Like,
that's
put on a new
that's
soul,
rad. That's
like,
rad.
right there. You know?
And he's got like sunglass dudes. Somebody comes up with watch. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, check it out."
I know, he comes back. He's like, "Look at my new T-shirt and this jacket I got. And these new sweats." Yeah, and that didn't work out for me.
Anyways, Molinart classic.
Yeah, so
Hoobs
yeah.
just got done.
How you
putting
doing?
more shit
How
on
you
the
feeling,
PC.
Hoobs? You've probably gotten like one night of sleep in the last week or what?
Actually, dude, this was the most mellow year, I think,
It seemed as though,
for the last 3
and granted,
years.
I was in my studio for a lot of it, but from when I was around, it felt very low stress. It felt like things were just kind of going step by step, and there wasn't a lot of chaos or like, oh shit, we have to. I mean, I heard that you had to take a panel off and maybe resize or do something to make it fit better, but
Yeah, we definitely had issues like through figuring the process, but you know, I think after fucking doing the space station a few years ago, it's
Yeah.
like it's just like
yeah, that was a beast.
I don't know. It's like no, I don't even like care anymore. you
Right,
know?
yeah.
It's like I don't care. Like,
I
if the
remember
if
when
the
that-
piece breaks or not. You
Yeah.
know? It's like, it doesn't matter.
When that piece got finished, I remember thinking, I might even said something to you. I was like, man, the next thing you make, not Molten Art Classic, I mean, just whatever piece you make is going to feel like a piece of cake. You know, it's like you go from this monstrosity, you don't even know how to pick it up, that's got like 1 million people working on it and weighs like 100 pounds, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, you just need to make a rig. You know?
Turf
Yeah.
Yeah, or even like a sick rig, but still.
No, this one is always like, you know, when we get to the final 3 days, it's like just the adrenaline, you know, you're just
Yeah.
like, damn, we're fucking close, you know. It's cool to see it. It just like, it's all these parts, you know, and then like in a few days, it all comes together. you
Yeah.
know, everybody. So it's like, what happens in a few days is just like crazy. Like, I couldn't believe like the space station, how much like got done in like 1 week, you know, like we just basically are sitting there with like parts.
Yeah, that was insane. When I think Sagan might have accidentally smashed one of the pillars and had to like remake the whole thing, and then I know
Yeah.
the sun had
Shit's
to
crazy.
crack
that shit
twice.
was crazy. Like, we
Mhm.
definitely pushed ourselves to the limit, you know?
Yeah.
That was like the limit, fucking everybody.
And that's
was just,
that's
like,
kind of
doing
what it's
work.
about. It's almost like the tide, right? It's like ebbs and flows, and you're like, okay, that might have been more than you want to put yourself through on a regular basis. So the following year, then with the shipwreck, it seemed like you scaled back the ambition, but then the kind of continuity, the cleanliness, the execution seemed to be like right up, you know, top level at that point. Joey Malachis emerging as this character sculptor with the Trumpfish, and now this year with the Carlos driver, figurine driver.
And the pirate ship, he did the captain too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh right, yes, right, yeah, with the squid face dude.
But yeah, the Carlos sculpture, that shit was.
I mean,
just set
no
it off,
no one didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, in glass, it's weird for me because I'm just so not that great at sculpting also, but like, just to think, man, you know, just knife thing here, little stab there, and it looks like Carlos. Like, weird.
I'm sure it wasn't exactly that. I've never seen Joey
No.
work before.
I've seen Joey work, and it's not. It's very.
It's crazy.
It's
how
very
he can
methodical
just, like,
and whatever,
he can
but
figure out those minute little details that just make people's faces.
right
I don't
pop out.
I've never seen the glass.
He's very his heart is.
I don't know, Ghost.
Well, Ghost is the OG. Yeah, Ghost is the OG. I would say that up until
his
His
are
own
more,
style.
His are more like
their characters, they're stylized character. You
It's
know,
just a different style.
Yeah.
You know?
I actually like Ghost. I was working with him, and he did a Biggie Smalls money with me back in the day, and it was like my birthday, and I was like, "Show me how you do it," and he was explaining to me with a picture in front of him,
Yeah.
and just like I think some people just get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It
totally.
just, I mean, that's the way it is with Glass in general. I mean, even with Banjo, he's not sculpting faces, but early on, his mind is seeing how 10 trillion little perfectly made pieces can assemble some goddess,
Totally.
like his brain just saw. And what I loved about with him, not to go too much on a tangent, is just the use of the reversals and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just to kind of keep it like that. All that stuff
Very-
is thought out. But now you've obviously gone in your own direction with these large pieces where this year in particular felt like there's always like a plan, and yet at the same time there's a little bit of an organic flow. Like what kind of happens is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And this year seemed to be like the end result was the probably closest to the original conception. Or maybe they always are.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, we definitely, like, the one thing that I wasn't sure of was just, how we were going to decorate the body,
Yeah.
And that was really just, I didn't want to just do plain paneling,
Right.
So that whole thing got really, like, I think that's what really made the piece,
Yeah.
is that concept like Coyle had, and then the concept for the leaves on the
Keeping
roof,
the color continuity was definitely
and then
key
the
to
color
making that
choice,
flow.
like Coyle was like
Yeah.
basically made all those
Motherfucker went to
choices.
school, dude.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it's,
it
yo,
is,
and to be
yeah.
honest with you, just to bring that up, I mean, I would say I noticed as the OG Piper dude, all of us back in the day kind of treated it a little bit more like skateboarding, like how many tricks do you know and how many can you put into your piece? And it was really like you guys on the East Coast, Elbow, you that actually went to art school that were
I
like,
didn't go to art school.
went to fucking Salem, close enough, you know what I'm saying? All right,
Okay.
well then the other dudes that went to art school and you too, but educated that brought that like, putting, like filling every square inch of, square millimeter of the piece with like busy pattern work isn't necessarily gonna,
It's about you're talking about aesthetically.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
Everybody has different aesthetic, even in their own tastes.
It's
Some
that,
people
that
could,
it
you
to
know,
me
but
was like
what they
2002-ish, 2000 when that like it went from everyone that got kicked out of school that got into pipe making to people that went to art school got into pipe making, and like for real they brought a much more mature, all y'all whoever brought a much more mature, I think just really like sophisticated eye to it all. Like make one really sick Filicello and put it in a fucking black fucking vessel and let that really be the focal point rather than having it be surrounded by 10 million reversals that
I understand what you're saying.
but
yeah.
and the thing is though at this point I would say Jay Lee's bringing back the old style,
Not just
the
that,
10
but
million
I think-
reversals and a lot of work. It's I mean obviously
understand what you're saying,
it's
though.
all in the eye of the beholder, but
I think it was up to that point. No one had taken sculptural work to a point of, like everyone that was doing sculptural at that time was just like every sculpture was just different, and you were doing it with like
yeah,
these guys were just like focused on creating a style out of the sculpture
for sure.
versus a style out of the patterns.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, it created a whole very huge arm or branch of the glass pipe tree. You know what I mean? It was very limited to traditional pipe shapes up to a certain point, and then for sure you, Elbow, Joe P. I mean, Ghost was there from the beginning, but he was kind of in a sea of kind of by himself.
he was like pre oil.
Yeah,
direction,
right,
you know,
right,
where
yeah.
these guys came in
Because he
right at
was
that
making
moment.
those aliens, and he did a lot of them, but they kind of got treated like the Chinese. I think did the design, and then there was a bunch of them on Venice Beach, and so I think that. Remember
Everything was
those?
just much bigger, Dude, all
Yeah.
this shit was so huge back then.
So now we're at the point where things have gotten reasonably sized. It seems like actual like function is equally important as aesthetic. Well,
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean,
yes and no. I mean, would you say like a dyno or a Debbie? Their function probably isn't quite as important as the sculptural component to it, but they are.
to a certain
They were
extent,
sized down
yeah,
though to be
but
more useful, more
I think
functional.
both of those examples, the artist has chosen to make it the most functional design that they possibly
Very
can.
yeah, no, I hear you.
And each on
Right.
the right,
Yeah.
which is mainly for oil and not for flour.
Yep.
Because it would be a different design for functionality if it was for flour.
Oil enabled everything to get a little bit smaller, and also because they can be cleaned easier, it sort of, I think, appeals more on a collectability aspect also. It seems like people can keep them clean, resell them, and the like has been used already doesn't seem to be as big a deal. Also, bangers are removable, so like the part that can get kind of funky or whatever is literally replaceable. So where are you going now? Where are you going next?
I'm going back
to
to Massachusetts, and I was supposed to fly out this morning, and I went to Santa Ana Airport, and they're like, "You are flying out LAX." So luckily, the lady was nice, and she rebooked my ticket out of this airport tomorrow.
That's
so.
sweet. Oh, nice.
So now we have time. It was like meant to be, you know.
It is meant to be.
We had time because
cool
I was
when
supposed to
things
do
like
this
that happen.
interview earlier, but we were in the middle of that project, and it was hard to take an hour.
You know, it's just one
away
of those,
from like.
Yeah, it's one of those things in the end that you kind of realize, like, during especially the last few days of construction, your mind is on it, especially when you're one of the more hands-on guys like yourself. I mean, I you know, you can see it's like everyone wants to be a part of it. That's there. They want to feel like they played a crucial role, and want to take pride in the thing at the end. You know, it's clearly evidenced by myself. If somebody forgets to mention that I was part of the team, I'm barking at them.
And Derek too.
Exactly. It felt good. I showed up at 2 a.m. that last night, and everybody in the fucking place cheered. That was fun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And then Los sprayed him down afterwards.
Los was funny. And it was almost a little anticlimactic. That last time you all rolled it in the kiln, it's like, all right, we're going home. I'm like, that was it? Wow, that was it. There was no like running through a ticker tape or fire. I guess fireworks were going off nonstop.
But that was like 6 in the morning. We were all zombies at that point, you know.
It was a good zombie though. That's a good zombie feeling, in my opinion. Also, I'm whatever, being to the degree of sober that I am, it's like those mornings when I'm like feeling cool because a cool shit went down, but I'm not feeling like fucked up. It works for me. Shit, that was another thing that we could talk about, but whatever. I was just gonna. That was a fun time, way back in the day. That was your show at the Goose Fire in Long Beach when I got annihilated and pissed in the streets and fucking. I think I punched Jeff Abrams, the father, and called him a. I'm gonna say I called him a pussy.
We were down there. It was like 11 a.m., dude. And you were just slamming. Like,
yes, exactly.
Shots. I think you had. I was like, dude, I couldn't believe the waitress was still bringing them to you because you ordered like 18 in like an hour.
Oh, I was destroyed. That was one of the most. I got put in a cab, and the cab went to San Pedro instead of Huntington Beach, and I just got dropped off and wandered around for a few hours, like in the blacked out stupor, until I sobered up enough to be like, look at my phone and be like, I mean, I'm like, it's like warehouses and docks and fucking train tracks and shit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I probably got into an argument with the cabbie, and he's like, get the fuck out. You know, I don't even know. Or I threw up, or.
Oh my god, dude.
Bro.
And then what did I do when I sobered up enough? I got a cab, and I took it back to the Goose Fire because I didn't have enough to get to Huntington Beach. And then I drove home. And I remember I got back, and it was like 2 a.m, and all the bars were closing, and I'm like, well, that was a crazy day. And I had a lot of those crazy days, so it was a good time. You know? So, the cruel twist of fate of growing older. What happens? Heartburn, balding. You know, I pee a lot. Always feel like I have to pee. What about you? How you doing? How old are you?
I'm getting there.
You're like
35.
5. Oh shit, I'm way older than you.
How old are you?
46. Right?
That's not that much older.
That's 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, but at this age, it doesn't matter.
It's less and less and less.
If I, you know,
it's less and less.
If I was 12 years old, then it'd be weird if we were like hanging out and talking.
Maybe, that would be weirder.
Unless like it was like family friend
right,
party.
That'd be normal. If you were like my nephew or something, or grandson.
Or if you go to a neighborhood block party or something.
Yeah, that'd be okay. I wouldn't let your children talk to me.
At that age,
I'd be like, there is no God, hail Satan. So either which way, so like, all right. So any big plans on the horizon? Any like, what's the next thing you do? Have any like thoughts of like new characters you might want to explore, or what torch are you working on now? I forgot. You on a kabuki?
yeah, I have a kabuki. It's my favorite.
I used your kabuki back when you worked in Crushmore, and I think it was my favorite torch I ever worked on.
Yeah, I miss it. I missed it because I was borrowing Adam's Delta Elite, maybe, which works, but it's just a kabuki has that phantom flame in the center that's very good for like attachments,
a lot of things.
Like
hell yeah,
heating an arm.
I mean, the Delta Elite is nice when you want a decent sized flame, but there's like a lot of gaps, which are manageable.
You just end up wasting a lot of gas too, because
right.
you end up like having the torch wide open, but I'm only using the edge
For
of
sure.
the flame to
Right.
heat you, because I needed more heat than the little flame, but not as much.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Mirage is my favorite, but I think my Shaman
Wait,
is
the Mirage
Samurai.
or the Kabuki?
Sorry, the Kabuki.
Yeah.
Starting to
I
get
have
to me
a.
now.
That's all right. I have a Mirage,
Getting loose.
and I've had two Mirages. One of mine got stolen, and I just got another one.
I just bought a new Mirage. I sold my 40 mil Herbie, which I didn't want to sell, but I just don't use it because I really want compressed air. And
There you go. I honestly had.
And I needed a travel torch, and so I bought a Mirage.
I had
to
a
travel
Herbie
with.
for like 6 years, and it was okay. But when I switched to a GTT, I never seemed to turn back or look back or whatever.
They're great. It's just
It's different. I think Herbie.
I felt bad letting it go, and even Hobbs hit me up. He's like, don't sell it. You're gonna regret it. But I took a tour of the Herbert Arnold factory in Germany, and I met their sales rep, and you can just buy a torch from them. Like it's not like they're like that rare, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's not like GTT where you're gonna get put on a long.
If I hadn't gone on that trip, I might have been like, no, I'm gonna save this, but like.
I could get another one, and I could get a custom paint job, and it could like have flames and monkeys.
Yeah, even like Hoobs has the mini torch. He has a Herbert Arnold mini torch that they custom made for him, and I want to fucking get one of those, dude.
Yeah.
And dude, because Herbie is like the lamp working shit is just like a drop in the bucket of what they're actually making money off of.
Right.
They make fucking $1 million machines for glass, but it's a different kind of like industrial application, like photovoltaic, like the fucking solar panels. They make giant lapidary machines to fucking make those panels and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say they
you know
probably.
So that's only one, and then that's one little other corner part of their shit.
Yeah.
It could go on and on, but that's for another time.
What do you think the future of the glass pipe industry has got? We still don't have nationwide
lasers.
legalization.
I think laser glass.
Do you think that it's gonna get? I mean, there's been a relatively steady progression from pipes from the underground into the mainstream, even though I wouldn't say it's there yet.
Yeah, where do I think it's? I mean, I think with the world becoming so connected and social media and all this other stuff, like more and more people can have eyes on it, and then you have people like Ziggy's and countless other stores that are trying to present the work in a more serious light, or even their new locations paired with like streetwear.
Oh,
like
for sure, right.
Vinyl toys.
It's taking
like
the whole culture
painting,
aspect to a more complete place.
Yeah, and like so maybe it'll be. I don't know.
I think it's smart in that he's trying to attract like the same, bring new eyes that might already be into similar style.
But where do I think it's going though is with legalization, more and more craft schools and museums are willing to show pipes, even if they're like in an illegal state still, because it's like they're starting to view it as art now.
Yeah, I would say the taboo is all but gone.
It's not going to be too long until the Smithsonian purchases their first pipe, because it's honestly going to be a part of the history of art and glass blowing and
for sure
and weed culture
has it
as well, because it's been from the 90s. It's only been like 30 years, like a very short time frame, and so
are you aware if
somebody's going to want to document that?
If Corning, does their museum have any pipes in it?
They just purchased their first piece for their collection.
Oh right,
last
from Dave
Colton,
Colton,
a Massachusetts local. He's 30 minutes from
here. And one thing I love about his style is it's a real, in my opinion, it's a real celebration of glass. The colors are very glassy. The shaping obviously is so completely fluid. It's not, you couldn't do it with anything else. I guess maybe plastic or a crazy carving of wood, but like yeah, it's very much in the flow, and he's perfected it. It's not like sloppy. It looks the way everything bends and curves and everything has a real nice motion to it.
The curator for Corning, I met her when I was TAing for Salt recently, and she's knows all about the pipes. She like knew all my work and stuff when I talked to her, and she's the one that got them to purchase that piece from him. They like paid for it, you know what I'm saying? And she's into it, and she's not like, oh, only pipes. Like there's other like things going on in glass that are equally as important, you know.
Yeah.
But she thinks it deserves a place there. So I think like, and she's younger too. So I think like people like that are gonna keep, you know, once one place gets a piece in their collection, you know, then the other place like, oh, okay, like, you know.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And the function on that piece is honestly an afterthought. You know what I'm saying? It's not exactly like something that was meant for somebody to rip on daily. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But it is a pipe. I think he actually submitted a piece that was non-functional to their annual thing you can submit to. And the curator was like, this is great, but can you make one functional? We want to purchase it. And so like, he spent a month to make a new piece for them.
That's cool.
And that's the one that they have.
Yeah. I noticed actually that the Glass Art Society, they gave a shout out to the Molten Art Classic this year, which is
really?
Yeah, on their IG account, which is pretty cool considering. I mean, it's been a while, but 20 years ago, they didn't even want to acknowledge that there was a pipe making scene, you know, and so 20 years later, they're literally shouting it out, and that's pretty cool. And probably Robert Mickelson probably deserves a lot of credit for making that bridge happen. Between the old traditional flame workers and the young upstarts. It took the skills had to get there where the traditional lamp workers had to just be like, you know, whether they want to smoke weed all day or agree with that, they couldn't deny the quality of work that was coming out and the amount of money it was bringing in to enable, you know.
That was kind of one big part of it. It's like, even my family, when I quit my job, you know, I had a stable scientific glass job. I mean, it wasn't like, it was like blue collar work, but it was good. It's a good career to have.
Right.
You can go up to work, but whatever. I quit my job, and I was like, my grandmother would get on me about like you know, like once you can like make some real art, or like once you go back to your career of the scientific, and then once I started making more money, you know, with it, that's when it was like the approval. And then she sent me a picture of a little rabbit sculpture, and she's like, Danny, this would be a sick pipe for you to make. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's funny. It was because of the money. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we live in a capitalist society, and it's funny how quickly people's moral boundaries can be redefined when the right amount of money enters into the picture, you know, and this society gauges your success that way. So in the end, she just wanted to feel like you were probably going to be secure. And
I guess so, yeah. And with the whole pandemic thing, they were definitely worried for me because I'm an independent artist, and you know, I invest a lot of my income back into the business, or you know, to try to, I don't know, do that kind of thing with like swag or merchandising. And, they were like definitely worried, you know, about.
Well, understandably, the whole country's taking a hit to the nuts. Some people are making it work for them better than others, but you know, by and large, honestly, the entire pipe scene seems to be doing pretty well with it. What I've noticed, but
yeah, it seems like it just never. There was a big slowdown, like for a month or two. It was just like the pump the brakes. People didn't know what was going to happen, and I don't know. I mean.
It seems kind of like a lot of just online sales.
It's always been. So I quit my job in 2011, and now it's 2020. So what is that? 9 years that I've been in the independent kind of like business, like my own, like have to feed myself, and it's always been like feast or famine. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Yeah, it's hills and valleys.
Yeah, and so I've tried to learn to keep a savings whenever it's the like feast time, you know, like to hopefully hold me over when there's like
it's real easy to think that that's going to be the norm.
Months that it's going to be the norm. Of
When you're a less experienced self-employed person and you have some prosperous months, it's easy to sort of like establish your spending habits around that and think that that's going to be the case. But I've definitely noticed feast and famine, peaks and valleys. There's times when things are flowing and times when they're not moving as much, and you can get stuck there, or you can kind of invent yourself or try exploring different avenues, and that's sort of what I think those moments are for, anyways.
Yeah, 100%.
So, you want to jump in the pool?
Yeah, let's do that. Probably a good time before the sun goes down.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
Let's smoke this bowl.
I think that's beat.
Let's throw this weed in here.
Thanks for watching the Wrecking Hour, or it's just Wrecking Hour. Sorry, I keep saying
You can
that.
say the Wrecking Hour.
I did it at first as a joke. And
The
now
IG,
it's like
the
automatically,
IG thing doesn't have the. That's about the only reason that matters. Otherwise, it's okay.
or it's like Wrecking Hour.
If you want to sound like.
Thanks for watching the Wrecking Hour.
Yeah, who talks like that? I was gonna say, is that Elmer Fudd?
I don't know, dude. Was it?
Yeah.
Well,
The Wrecking Hour.
It sounds better when you say it. Now you're gonna cue that sick ass guitar solo and
It is pretty
fucking
sick.
roll the credits.
I should
All
play it
the
for you.
collaborators from Molten Art Classic, sponsors,
I don't know if we have. Do we have rubbing alcohol?
the
Don't think
Patreon donations, donators.
Bring the money. That's what keeps the art flowing, right?
Oh yeah, peace.
Oh yeah, this is what I like to do at the end. I like to go like this.
Oh what? The diamond?
And then I say,
Oh no, it's not.
do without wilt. It's my little thing, right?